أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. If we think just for a slight moment, we will realize we have a soul. And this soul is separate to our body. In fact, we disassociate it from our body. When we speak about our body and say my body, we speak about it in the sense of a possession to the soul, rather than that being you. And thus when someone dies, you will notice this, inadvertently, you will refer to the cadaver or the corpse that's there, you refer to it as so-and-so's body. You will no longer call this lifeless body the person. It is a disassociation because they're no longer together. A realization that when you ponder over something, you start to see the reality of things. And thus the importance of the thought. Where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, فِكْرُ سَاعَةٍ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ عِبَادَةِ سَنَةٍ. To think for an hour is better than to worship for a year. In fact, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, لَيْسَتِ الْعِبَادَةِ كَثْرَةُ الصَّلَاةِ وَالصِّيَامِ. That worship is not an increase or a great amount of prayers and fasting. He says, Al-ibada at-tafakkuru fi amri Allahi jalla wa ala. Worship is to think about what Allah has commanded. Thinking about everything pertaining to Allah, pertaining to your life and what you are here for. To actually think about these issues, to actually have these thoughts within. And that's why when I mentioned previous nights, I said, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهِ, the ones that remember Allah. I said, قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, the ones that remember Allah, whether they are standing or they are sitting on their sides. And then the verse says, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Those that remember their Lord, those that reflect, those that have thought, they give thought to things. At the end, if you notice, it says they think about the creation of the heavens and the earth. And oh Allah, you have not created this batilan, means you didn't create it in vain. You did not create this with no purpose. Glory be to thee. Subhanaka faqina adhab an-nar. What we ask, faqina adhab an-nar, is what it is. Our final aim, our absolute aim is salvation. This is our aim, nothing else. Faqina adhab an-nar. Save us from the fire of hell. We want this salvation. When we reflect, when we think, when we ponder, we start to understand. We realize how good we have it. is this really a trial? It's a good trial. Think about all the trials you take in your life, all the examinations, the dread, the stress people. Have you ever seen people in university during exam time? I can tell a lot of uni students, each one reacts differently. You always tell the ones that haven't had a haircut in I don't know how long because of the stress for exam time. Exams come along, they just can't be bothered. There's those guys that are drinking Coke all night. They're having the caffeine fix to stay awake, the stress, they don't know what to do. Some even go see psychologists. They can't handle it. They enter the exam room. You can feel the clock. I don't know if you hear the clock ticking, and all this stuff plays a role. You can even hear people writing. You can hear it. It's just it's like a Dickensian workshop. It's something that when you enter, you feel the doom and gloom. You feel the world coming to an end. And this is a test. There's no comparison. This is a good test. This is an easy trial. This is an easy test. We are covered in all these blessings. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. Allah has made us eyes. He's made us a tongue, eyes to see, a tongue to speak with. Allah has given us all these abilities, and He's let us know good from bad. And after all this, as the Imam mentions in the dua, when you read the dua after Salat al-Witr, the dua al-Hazin, where he says, if it's not this, if there's nothing after this, when لو لم يكن إلا الموت لكفى. If it's only death that's to come, لكفى, that's sufficient. That we've had it good. How many of you have been given anything you've earned? How many of you earned this? Who earned what they were given? No one can raise their hand. If Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, the greatest creation of Allah, did not earn what he was given, how did I earn what I was given? No one earned what they were given. Allah's mercy, He gives. And it doesn't stop there. To let you think about this, we are covered in all these blessings, and then you've got heaven to look forward to. You've got heaven to look forward to. That's all that's coming after this. Allah gives you this trial, and you believe, فَآمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ, believe in Allah on the Day of Judgment. You believe in the Messenger, and that's what you have. You have paradise, an eternity of bliss, not something that you earn. No one earns paradise. No one's deserving of paradise. Ata'an hisab. Allah gives. Allah grants. Allah bestows upon you paradise. It's given. It's given out of Allah's benevolence. It's given out of Allah's mercy. Allah just gives. And He says it's tough for you here. You had a tough trial here. And really, in comparison, it was an easy trial. You want to compare our trial? Have you ever read Dua Jawshan al-Saghir? Go read Dua Jawshan al-Saghir, where he starts mentioning different situations for different people. How many of you here are in a dungeon? Imagine you're in a dungeon in one of these prisons around the world. Imagine you were in a dungeon in the old days where they used to put people in dungeons. They put you on the rack, or they put you on Judas's cradle, God forbid, or one of these punishments that they used to have in those days. We've never seen this. We've never understood this. In fact, you live in a country where you can pretty much, people have gone into the habit of egging politicians. And that's just been happening and nothing's been done about it. As opposed to a country where you're even afraid to egg the politician's picture that's in your own house. We've got a good life. And we've got it very good. Then you reflect over the creation. This is what you need to think. The creation that you see and the might of the Creator that has made this creation. Before we talk about the creation, why do we not reflect and why do we not think about the essence of the Lord? Why don't we actually think about God? Why is it, if you go in the usul of Al-Kafi and you read the narrations of the Imams, when it comes to talking about God's essence. And the Imams prohibit this. They prohibit this, they say, because this leads to disbelief. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, when you talk about the essence of God, what God is, it's beyond your understanding. In fact, Allah in the Quran talks about His creation. Go through the Quran always talks about the creation of God. Because what God is beyond your understanding. Allah is the programmer of your soul. Allah is the programmer of your intellect. You are deficient. Your brain and the way you think, your mind and the way you think is limited to what? Is limited to what's material. It's limited to what's bound by time. It's limited to what has mass. It's limited to what is material. It cannot understand the immaterial. It cannot understand a Lord that is Qadim. A Lord that, if you read when Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam, Zayn al-Abidin al-Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya, when he says Alhamdulillah, the first dua you read there, it says Alhamdulillah al-awwal bila awwalin kana qablah. Praise be to Allah, the first that there was none before Him. There was no one before Allah. He was always there, Qadim. وَالْآخِرِ بِلَا آخِرٍ يَكُونُ بَعْدَهُ. That's very hard to even comprehend this. That Allah is the last and there's none after Him. It's hard to comprehend. Because if everyone that goes to paradise becomes what? Immortal, they never die. So what does this mean? How is Allah timeless? How can I understand? You can't understand because you are deficient. And that's why the Quran reminds us about creation. It speaks about stories of the past. It speaks about the greater creations of Allah, like the Prophets alayhum as-salam. We find ourselves standing on the shore of a vast ocean of knowledge when we read about this. We discuss the Creator, it's a different kettle of fish. Man becomes deficient and unable to comprehend, incapable of understanding this subject. And that's why the majority of the Quran is about understanding the creation of Allah rather than this. Now, thoughts are generated from our created minds, and we can't think outside of this. We can't. That's why when the Imam says the verse, وَإِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى, when you come to your Lord, this is where the end is. When you are thinking, when it gets to the point that you accept that God exists, He says, stop. To understand what God is, this is another realm altogether. So the whole thought has to be in creation. We need to ponder over the creation. If you actually think about what the creation is. And the most simplest arguments that we use from when we were young are the ones that still stand the test of time. Someone says, how do we come about? You come back to the most simplest argument. What came first? The chicken or the egg? The simplest argument. Someone will say the chicken. You say, all right, where did the chicken come from? You say an egg. Where did the egg come from? A chicken, and it keeps going back. So then they started coming up with the idea. Let's go with evolution. Let's take this idea how many millions of years ago, that initially, before we get to our ancestors, as they like to put it, that we were from this original tree of life, and a seed, this sapling became a tree, and the tree fell from the seed fell from the tree and fell into the water. How did the water come about? I always think about that. How did the earth come about that the tree was in? You know, don't they always go back? Where did it all initially come from? Then they get stuck, so they come up with a new theory. They go, we have the multiverse theory. They said there are infinite amount of universes. There's no evidence to this. They're supposed to be scientists. You know, science is all based upon evidence. You need to have, there's got to be some empirical evidence. There has to be something that's measurable, something that you can prove. Yet they say we have this multi-universes. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And from these multiple universes, one of the universes had life on it. at random, there's all these universes that each one has one planet on it that has life. It's ridiculous. These are scientists have come up with this idea in order to prove what? But then you keep going and say, all right, how did these multiple universes come about? Becomes a regressive argument. Till you arrive at what? There has to be something that caused everything. So we think about the creation and you ponder. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, in one of the sermons in Nahj al-Balagha, he says, وَلَوْ فَكَّرُوا فِي عَظِيمِ الْقُدْرَةِ ولو فكروا في عظيم القدرة وجسيم النعمة لرجعوا إلى الطريق وخافوا عذاب الحريق. If they thought about, if we actually sat there for a moment and we pondered over the greatness of this power, okay, and the vastness of this bounty, people would have returned to the right path and they would have feared the punishment. They would actually return. If you actually look at creation and you ponder over the creation, you would return to what is right and what is correct. Then he mentions what the problem is. He says, وَلَكِنَّ الْقُلُوبَ عَلِيلَةٌ وَالْبَصَائِرُ مَدْخُولَةٌ. Al-qulub alila, meaning the souls are what? They're ill. And this is where we get to about thought and how the thought process begins. You can't think with a sick heart. You have to heal this heart. Al-basair, the insight that's supposed to be present, is diseased. Why is it diseased? Because of all these thoughts that we have gathered from the things around us, which we will discuss as we move along. Then the Imam mentions in this, he says, أَلَا يَنظُرُونَ إِلَى صَغِيرِ مَا خَلَقَ. Do they not look at the smallest of what Allah has created? كَيْفَ أَحْكَمَ خَلْقَهُ وَأَتْقَنَ تَرْكِيبِهِ. How He strengthened the system of these things that He created. And how Allah Azza wa Jal has created this system of how He's put them together. You're talking about something that is actually moving and is so small. You're walking. There's ants. There could be an ant walking on the carpet right now. You wouldn't know. They're everywhere. In fact, just to give you, because this sermon, the Imam starts talking about the actual ants. And if you look at if you weigh all the humans on this planet, combined, every human, how many are we? 7.5 billion, or I don't know what number we're up to. Human beings, collectively, if you were to weigh them, they are 1/14 of the combined weight of all the ants on this earth. So if you've got all the ants on this earth and you weighed them, they are 14 times the weight of the combined humans on this earth. How many ants would you need to get to equal the weight of one human? It's mind-boggling, yet these ants are everywhere, living around you, that get sustained. Ponder over this, reflect over this. If we did, then we could have a better understanding. This is the importance of this thought. We understand why we are here. One of the primary arguments they use to prove the existence of Allah is a teleological argument, which sometimes they will call it what's it called? It's the goal-orientated argument or the purpose argument. Okay? In other words, what is the purpose of things being created? Or what's the aim of things being created? They begin with one of the foremost argument that, once again, is an argument you learn. Same thing is you learned when you were a child. If I see a building, I know that a builder built it. Isn't that right? If I see footprints, kids, they tell you, I know an animal has walked past. These are normal arguments, and they're the strongest arguments you'll find in this point. And that's where they came up with William Paley's watchmaker analogy, where he says, for example, if I walked into if I walked into a forest, for example, and I found a watch on the ground, and I was to open the watch, and the watch has all got these intricate parts to it, I would know that this watch was put together. I would know that this watch was put together by someone. So the scientists came along and said, hold on, but we know how it was put together. That's their counter argument. But it doesn't matter how it was put together. The fact that I know that it was made, my iPhone here that I have, and I stress iPhone because I'm not an Android user. Yeah, so the iPhone that I have, I know was put together. I know that it was made. Whether, I don't know how they put it. Do you think I know how they put all these little parts together? I don't know. I don't know how they brought these parts together, but I do know that it was made. I've got to be nonsensical to say otherwise. And that's why I look at nature and all things, and they show me signs of Allah's existence. I need to ponder over this. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us to look at this. And He says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقِّ. We will show them our signs in the horizons, in the heavens, everywhere around you, in the universe, and in themselves. They will see our signs until they know it is the truth. They will know there is no doubt there is an existence of a creator to begin with. And in fact, the people that believe that the world is without aim, Allah says in the Quran, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. We're created with no goal, where we're created with no purpose, no aim. Think about it, honestly, what are you doing here? You would have to be insane. Literally, you'd have to be insane to believe that I am born and I go to school for a third of my life. That's how long you go to school. From kindergarten till you finish your degree, or whether you finish your master's or your doctorate, or in some cases, there's people that never leave university. They go there and they just hang out there and they chill with the boys and whatever they find to do there. A third of your life you spend in a university, in education systems. And then a touch under 2/3 you spend working, and then you are left by the system telling you, look, you're either going to get a severance package, we don't need you. And then after you leave, only to be told, the world you live today, don't say it's far away from us, it's around us. Only to be told by your kids, listen, we're going to shift you off to a nursing home, or we're ever going to get rid of you too, and then you're going to have to deal with whatever's left. Issues like not making it to the bathroom on time. If anyone was to tell you that this life is the only life and there is all there is to it, I don't believe any person with any sanity would decide to stay on this earth. Wouldn't take their own life. If that's all I'm going to do, what am I going to do? You want me to actually put an effort in to fix the world up for the future, who I'm going to be non-existent and have nothing to do with the future? What's it going to change? What purpose, what aim is there with me doing anything? See, with the concept of there being accountability and there being a day of judgment, this is what makes it continuous. Benjamin Franklin, who is the guy on the $100 bill, on the American $100, is one of the two people on the notes that isn't a president. He was never a president of the United States. So Benjamin Franklin says, man is so evil with religion, imagine without. So mankind is so evil even though they have religion. Imagine they did not have religion. No accountability. It'd be like Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. And everyone remembers what happened there when there was no law. Or do you remember the LA riots when people were just raiding shops, and because the police were getting attacked, everyone was getting attacked. So it's open season, and what people would commit, the crimes people commit. How many people would actually commit a crime if you took a survey, if they could get away with it and no one would know about it? That concept of accountability has that effect there. Now, like I said, I don't understand why my phone, I don't understand how my phone was made. Like I said, I don't doubt for a second that it was made. And the universe, and I don't doubt for a second the person that actually made it, who was a normal human, made it for a purpose. And I don't doubt for a second that everything in the universe was made with a purpose. Although I may not know this purpose, I may not understand this purpose, I may not know why, if you know how arrogant humans are, they call the appendix an appendix. Even in Arabic, they call it zayd. In other words, it's just something extra. They don't know why it's there, so they just call it an appendix. It's an extra. You know, I don't know why there are nipples on men. I don't know what their purpose is, but I know there is a purpose for them. I don't know why we have a blind spot in our eye, but I know there is a purpose. I don't know the purpose, but because of the sheer arrogance of mankind and the way we turn to that I need to know everything, if I don't understand something, then I'll just call it an appendix. I'll call it as an extra, something that's not needed at all. So, and this is why it doesn't mean there is no purpose if we don't know the purpose. A moment of thought, a moment where I reflect can change my existence, can change where I am. This is why it's more important than this worship. And thus is the story of Ashab al-Kahf. When you look at Ashab al-Kahf, and this story is narrated on Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he is asked by one Jewish holy man about this, one of the I think it was one of their rabbis or some of the like came and asked him about these people. In English, they call them the seven sleepers. You know, the Ashab al-Kahf are called in English the seven sleepers. And they say they were at the time of Decius, and he was a Roman ruler. And if you look at Decius in history, he came after a guy called Philip, and this Philip guy was actually of Arab origin, born in Syria, and Decius was born, he was a Serb to begin with, he was born in Serbia. Now Decius, unlike Philip was very good with the believers. Taban, in history they'll call him the Christians. He was very good with the believers, but Decius persecuted the believers. He was someone that committed persecution, and these people, in the narration where Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says these people, in the narration there were 6 men at that point, he says they were sitting and they would be looked after. They were sitting next to the throne of Decius. One of them came one day and said to those around them, he says, and this is the narration, says, قَدْ وَقَعَ فِي قَلْبِ شَيْءٌ مَنَعَنِ الطَّعَامُ وَالشَّرَابُ وَالْمَنَامُ. Something entered my heart. A thought entered my heart. I was thinking. That prevented me from, sometimes you think of something, it took me away from eating, it took me away from food, it took me away from drinking, even sleeping. You know, sometimes you have a thought, you say, I was tossing and turning, I was twisting and turning all night. I couldn't sleep because my mind was thinking about something. So then they said, what is it that prevented you from this? He says, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is narrating this. That this man said, قَالَ أَطَلْتَ فِكْرِي فِي هَذَا السَّمَاء. Because Decius at the time, like most rulers at first, they're humble. They actually, it's a bit like, during Christmas, people dress in the garb of Santa Claus. In Easter, they dress like the Easter bunny. And during elections, we're getting close to a federal election, politicians dress as human beings and try and tell you that they actually care and show affection. Pretty much this is the way. At first, Decius, when they get into power, like the one that used to call the Hamamatul al-Masjid, that was Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, where he used to live in the masjid, always reading Quran and praying. And then the second he got into power, in his inauguration speech, he says, if anyone dares to question me and tell me to fear Allah, I will strike their neck. You remind me of Saddam's inauguration speech when he said something similar to that. This is what they are. At first they pretend they're nice, they're there for the people. The second they get into power, they say now, it would, as George W. Bush said, it would be easier if it were a dictatorship. This is how they want to be. They want to rule with an iron fist. Now this guy got in and he was brutal. And he claimed to be God. So he said, I began to look at these heavens. I look at because naturally you look, someone we call, a lot of the things we give them a title. For example, why things fall, we say that's the law of gravity. What is the law of gravity? I don't know. Then if you say, all right, why doesn't the moon fall? And they say, hold on, it's outside Earth's gravitational pull. You know, the moon's what, 380 something thousand kilometers away from the Earth. Something like that. It's not going to fall down. It's outside our gravitational pull. You know, they'll have a law for everything. But you actually look at everything in the universe. How is it supported? How does it move so well? It's so finely tuned. He said, I look at all this. I looked at the heavens. I looked at the sun, the stars, and the moon, and pondered, how could this all be all like this? A moment of thought. I looked at the earth and the way that the earth is, and how things grow from the earth. I began to ponder. I looked at all the creation that there is. And then he said, I thought, who is my creator? And the one, he says, that made me. He says, because obviously it's not this Decius, or as the narration says, Dacius. It's not this Decius. Because if it was him, he wouldn't need to eat, he wouldn't need to sleep. And he actually says the words, you know, in Arabic we say someone that goes and defecates, you know, that's what he says. He's someone that urinates, and he's someone that has bowel movement. How can he be a god? Everything that we have, he needs. He's like us. It's a big joke. So at this point, this moment of thought that he has, it says that they fell at his feet. They fell at his feet and they began to kiss him. And they said to him, Bika hadan Allah min al-dalala ila al-huda. They said, through you, Allah has guided us from being astray to guidance. How did he become guided? A thought. He sat and thought. He had to think about something. Inshallah, tomorrow night I continue this discussion. It was intended to be broken into two parts about thought and the importance of thinking. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us of those that are constant in thought, that we spend our times reflecting and pondering over the reality of this world, over the reality of where we live. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal not to take us from this world until He is pleased with our actions. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولك قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصل اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين